And here we're going to be talking about negative exponents. A negative exponent does not just change the number into a negative number. You do not write this down, but let's imagine we were doing something like this. In scientific notation, it told us how many places we wanted to move the decimal place. So -2 meant we were moving that decimal place back 2 spots. That would change into 0.015. And the reason that is because 1.5 times 10 to the negative second is actually the same thing as 1.5 times 1 over 10 to the positive second. A negative exponent basically just changes the expression, that expression, into a fraction where it's now 1 over that same expression, but we change this exponent into a positive. Okay? You don't actually need to really know that. I mean, it's good to know because in algebra it's going to come up a lot. Negative exponents are really important, especially when we're dealing with variables instead of just numbers. But here we just need to know that it's not just changing into a negative number. Actually, let's just deal with that part. If we were just doing 10 to the negative second, that's 1 over 10 to the second, or 0.01. It's basically just going to change the number into a decimal. Okay? And the way we can do that in the calculator is the same way we type in an exponent of 3 or 4 or any other exponent that we want. We're going to use this button. So on that last example, we would do 10 to the negative second as just typing in 10 first. Then you hit y to the x. And then, remember in this calculator, the negatives are kind of weird. You have to type in 2 first. So you type 2, and then you hit this button by changing it into a negative. That'll give you that expression. If you hit equals, it'll give you 0.01. So, actually, let's change from orange. Let's go with what haven't we used yet? Let's go with dark blue. Alright, so still have to follow GEMDAS. I have 10 minus 2 to the 5th. So I have an exponent there. I have multiplication, another exponent, multiplication, another exponent. I'm going to do inside the parentheses first here. I want to simplify all of that stuff first. So inside of this parentheses, 2 to the negative second. Again, when you're typing this into the calculator, you can hit 2. Then you hit that button, the y to the x. That lets you type any exponent you want. Then you hit 2, and you change that into a negative, plus, minus sign. That's going to give you 0.5. Excuse me, that's going to give you 0.25. Sorry, 0.25. So we still have 2 to the 5th on the outside of this, and then in the parentheses, it's 0.25. This is going to be the exact same thing, except this number is going to be a 3. That's going to give us 0.125. So now I've done in my parentheses. Now I have subtraction, multiplication, multiplication. I still have this exponent out in front. I'm going to do that next. My exponent first. So 10 minus 2 to the 5th is 32. Use that button again. Anytime you want to type in an exponent, you use that y to the x button. That lets you type any exponent that you want. So now I just have subtraction and some multiplication. 32 times 0.25 is 4. Excuse me, that's 8. That's 8. Times 0.125 is 1. If you want to see that in 2 steps, you could do 10 minus, you're multiplying these 2 first, that would give you 8, and then times 0.125, that gives us 1. And then 10 minus 1 is just 9. The next one we have an exponent. We have subtraction. We have another exponent, then we have multiplication, then we have division, then we have another exponent. So I'm just going to work those exponents left to right. 2 to the negative second is 0.25 minus 2 to the negative third times 64 divided by 2 to the fourth power. Now I'm going to do my next exponent term, 0.25 minus 0.125 times 64 divided by 2 to the fourth. We have one more exponent term to do, 2 to the fourth. That's 0.25 minus 0.125 times 64 divided by, that's 16. Now I have subtraction, multiplication, and division. I have multiplication and division that I'm deciding between, so I have to work that from left to right. 0.125 times 64. Minus, that changes into 8 divided by 16. That division is my next step. It's subtraction and division, so I have to divide first. So that's 0.25 minus 0.5. That gives me negative 0.25. You could write that as a fraction if you want. You have to know that that's negative 1/4, but you don't have to write your answer as a fraction. If you want to leave it as a decimal, that's okay. All right, last one. We have two sets of parentheses, and we have exponents outside of those. So we have to do inside the parentheses first, and then we can do the exponent. So I'm going to do the parentheses from left to right. I'm going to do inside of there first. 2 times, that's negative 2 to the negative second, plus 1/2 raised to the negative third. When you type this into the calculator, make sure you type in negative 2. When it's in parentheses, that negative sign is included. So we do negative 2 to the negative second power. That's 0.25. Plus 1/2 to the negative third. I actually did exponents before I did this second set of parentheses. It really isn't going to matter because I have that plus sign in between. I know I'm going to add those last, so that actually I could do all of this if I wanted to, and then all of that, because I know I'm going to add them as my last step. I'm going to do the right side of that first, though. I'm going to do 1 divided by 2, that's 0.5. And that raised to the negative third is going to give me 8. I don't really need the parentheses there. I just wrote those. Actually, I wrote them by accident. But we really don't need those because we're really going to do this multiplication, and then we're just adding. We do not need those parentheses anymore. 2 times 0.25 is 0.5, plus 8 is 8.5. And that's my final answer. One thing I want to point out just before I wrap this up, an exponent of 0, 10 to the 0th power, 50 to the 0th power, 100, 1,000, anything to the 0th power, it's just 1. Anything raised to the 0th power is 1, and you can use your calculator for that. Again, that y to the x button lets you type any exponent you want. So the calculator would confirm that, but anything raised to the 0th power is actually 1.